Well, hello to all my GMP friends, and here we are finally back again with another great interview with a good friend who has become a significant mission partner with the Global Missions Project. I think you're really going to enjoy hearing from our new friend today, and I'm going to not waste any time and bring him on right away. His name is Colin Peckham, and he is actually a mission partner for us in two different locations. One of them is in South Africa, and the other is in Scotland. And so we'll share a little bit about that and talk about that today as well. So let's bring Colin on right now. Hello.
Hey there, Camp. How you doing?
Good to see you. Good to see you. I've just enjoyed getting to know you over our last few projects and everything. And of course, you're actually affiliated with a missions organization here in the United States called ACT.
Yeah, Artists in Christian Testimony. Yeah, they're based in Brentwood, Tennessee.
Okay. So I actually get the chance to see you at least one more time during the year outside of your native countries where you minister and have lived. Well, anyway, I don't want to waste any more time because I want to make sure that we have time to cover some of the questions that I had about things that have gone on recently with our projects with you. And we recently did have a wonderful project in Cape Town, South Africa, in the month of March, just a couple of months ago. And I just want to ask you this. We've served together before with some of our GMP teams. And did you feel like that the project was successful in Cape Town? That's a big word. It's kind of very subjective, but tell me what your response to that would be.
Well, the short answer is yes. It was very successful. The longer version of that is successful in a variety of different ways. The first and most important part of our ministry is to see that God is glorified through everything that we do. And that is sometimes difficult to quantify and to see, but a lot of it comes down to the attitude and the team that comes out and why they're there and what their motivation is. And then that we do what we believe that God has called us to do faithfully. And the team that you brought out were fantastic. And we went all over the city. We had 10 days of events. We had 15 events in those 10 days, and 6,200-ish people attended those events. Prisoners in prisons, school children in schools, people in churches, and shoppers at shopping centers. And the best thing of all, though, to be honest, was that we know that a number of people made the decision to follow Christ. And if anything, that puts a stamp of God's approval upon what you're doing. Now, I know that the Bible says that even the stones would cry out if we weren't doing it, but it is still very good to see people turning to Christ as a result of the ministry that you're involved in.
Well, and as we both know, God's the one doing the saving. And
yes, right.
But we had the privilege of doing the introducing.
Yes.
And what we absolutely love to do that. Well, we were partnering alongside of you and your wonderful wife Norma and your son Andrew, and had a great time with them as well. And I know that she's a significant part of your ministry, your wife.
Yes, I mean, very much so. I mean, we're two halves of the same coin. We used to share an office actually on the other side of the house. But she's on the phone all the time talking to churches, and I'm writing music all the time. And these two things do not go together. And so we had an office divorce, and I've now moved my office to the other side of the house.
Well,
yes, she handles all the office stuff.
I get that. And let me also say, by the way, for those of you who may not know this about Colin, is that Colin is also an outstanding music arranger / composer in the works that he has done for his special events that he does with his unique ministry called Origin. Now, Colin, one time I asked you, I said, where did you come up with the name Origin? And your first immediate response was, we're not very good with names.
Right. And we really are.
But tell us a little bit about Origin and what you do with Origin.
Well, Origin was a ministry that was founded in Scotland back in 1997, and it was done to start coordinating outreach and worship events and prayer events, actually, between local churches. And so what we do is we have a bunch of talented, mostly artistic people, whether they're musicians, singers, actors, artists, I mean, visual artists, and graphic designers. And together we put on, working with local churches and sometimes by ourselves, we put on outreach and worship events to do three things. One, for the glory of God. I said that already. That's at the heart of what we do. It's the heart of everything we do. Is it done for his glory? And number two is to reach the world. And number three is to unite the church. And those are the three things that are central to why we do what we do. And we always try and partner with ministries that are doing the same sort of thing as we are. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. If there's someone doing something better than we could do it, well, let's work with them and bring them to where we're working and help. And that's in fact how we met. We just found a natural partnership in the gospel. And so we have maybe somewhere between 20 and 40 events per year. Some of them festivals, some of them in churches, some of them in shopping centres, and some of them in concert halls. In fact, I just got back from one in Scotland on Easter Sunday, and it was just the most remarkable evening. We've always been worried since COVID that the numbers have gone down, and indeed they did. Before COVID, we would have had 2,000 people in the concert hall for this event. In fact, we did every year. And then after COVID, it's just been trickling back up again. But we had a wonderful experience in that I was sitting in my dressing room waiting to go on stage, and I had a knock at the door, and in comes the box office manager, and he says, "We've got 150 people outside and we can't fit them in." And I said, "Well, we haven't opened the upper circle of the hall because we didn't expect to need to use it." And I said, "What do the hall say?" And he said, "Well, I've spoken to the hall and they've got enough staff and they say we can open it." So we did, and the people came in, and again, people were saved. The preacher said to me before the thing started, he said, "Can I make an appeal at the end?" And I said, "Absolutely, you can make an appeal. Preach for a verdict," I think was the phrase I used. And he did, and I had my back to the audience because I'm facing the orchestra, but I could hear him thanking all the people who raised their hands at the end to follow Jesus. And well, that's what it's all about.
That is truly exciting. Well, now tell me. I know that you have some very specific events. Like the Symphonic Praise is the one that I see most often on my emails, because I get your emails from Origin. But tell us a little bit about the individual teams that you utilize to do some of these things.
Sure. I mean, in Scotland, we have two bands, an orchestra and a choir. Our foot-stomping gospel band does events which are exactly as they sound. It does what it says on the tin. And basically, those are evenings where they share their testimony, and then they use great blues and gospel music to reinforce the message. And then we have our house band, which does the sort of larger scale events, and that the membership of that varies, as per event. We have a small choir. And an ad hoc orchestra. It's a lot of the same players each time, but it's a mix, and they're all volunteers. And the events themselves vary a lot in style. So you have, as I say, foot stomping gospel. We also have a program called Prodigal. In Prodigal, we share the story of the prodigal son, but we use contemporary non-Christian music. It's entirely secular music, everything from rock songs to, if you were going to pick a song to describe the state of mind of the prodigal son at the beginning, what's better than Queen's "I Want It All and I Want It Now"? So we tell the story of the prodigal son using an actor, and he carries the story along, and then we intersperse it with secular music. And we've used that in prisons, we've used that in shopping centers, we've used that in schools, we've in churches, and it's just awesome. And then one of my favorite events that we do each year is Symphonic Praise. And Symphonic Praise is an evening of more classical style. So we're trying to reintroduce great hymns to the church. We're also trying to teach great theology through music. Martin Luther, I believe it was, said that he would not have any young man trained in the ministry except he first be trained in music. Now, that's a great idea. But I actually think the reverse is more true. I would not have any young man trained in writing music and writing songs for the church, except first he be trained in theology. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to take great hymns, which, with all the best will in the world, people won't remember most of what the preacher says. We hope they get the main points away, but they will not remember everything. However, the words of the songs that they sung will go round and round and round in their head for the rest of their lives. And so we need to get the church back to singing music that teaches the biblical truth. And we do that in Symphonic Praise, and I absolutely love it. And we take some of the greatest hymns ever written. We write brand new arrangements, brand new orchestrations for them. And then we do them in the great cathedrals. And we have that coming up again in Scotland, the 24th of September. We did it in Cape Town too. We actually just hired the Cape Town Philharmonic. And we did the whole thing with the Cape Town Philharmonic. And actually, you'll find that on YouTube. We put some of those things up on YouTube.
That was actually one of my next questions, kind of relating to, is there a difference between what you do in Scotland and what you do in South Africa?
Well, yes, we have a group in South Africa that is quite different. We run the Cape Town Gospel Choir. That's our choir in South Africa. Now, the Cape Town Gospel Choir, we've struggled to get it going again since COVID. And it's basically a funding thing. We need the funds to be able to rent a hall to rehearse, and it's not as simple as you'd think in a third world country like South Africa, where we have significant issues and struggles. So, for example, the people struggle with transport. Now, if we just wanted rich people in the choir, we could have the rehearsal any way we wanted. But we want it to be somewhere where people can get to it using public transport, using the minibus taxis, or using the train. And finding a church in those areas that will allow us to hold the rehearsal and yet still be accessible for people from maybe wealthier suburbs who would be more hesitant to go into the poorer communities. So we need to find some neutral ground, and in that way act as an agent of not just of the gospel, but of social and racial reconciliation within a society that has been torn apart through those things over the last 40 years, 50 years.
Well, tell me this. We were with you in Cape Town in March, and we were, the team that we brought this particular time was our Metro Big Band, our jazz band. Any specific things that you would relate to in terms of how Metro Big Band being there would have be in support of Origin in Cape Town?
It was very helpful. Not only those are our first Cape Town events since the COVID shutdowns. In South Africa, we had some of the most draconian in the world, and then almost immediately the most lenient in the world. Kind of swung from one to the other, and it was our first real get back to regular in-person ministry. And we did a lot of stuff online, so we did a lot of YouTube stuff and that sort of thing. But it was our first in-person, and in that it was really good to get the team back up and running here, the local team in South Africa, and also to reconnect with a lot of the churches that we'd worked with in the past. So of all the churches that you went to, we had at some way had a relationship with them, and we'd worked with them in previous things. And it was very good to be able to go back and to serve them and to say, we haven't forgotten you, and we're still here to serve you, and we still want to bless you, and we still want to encourage you. And here we brought all these crazy Americans from the other side of the world to do just that.
Indeed. By the way, to all of our friends who are listening today, Colin, I've mentioned, is a really fine arranger, and most of the arranging that he does is primarily orchestra, I believe. Is that correct? Would that be fair? Most of it. As a matter of fact, I've respect so much what he's been doing. We have a website called churchorchestramusic.com, and Colin has just recently allowed us to list a number of his wonderful orchestral arrangements that are designed a lot for congregational singing and that kind of thing. And I encourage y'all to visit that website, churchorchestramusic.com, and look up Colin Peckham and listen to some of those beautiful arrangements of his. Now, Colin, we're going to be returning once again to be with you in Scotland next year, and we've done some really unique things there in Edinburgh with Metro Big Band in the past. Can you tell us a little bit about anything that's going to be coming up as far as what we'll be doing next summer in 24, in August of 24?
Yes, it's the interesting thing about Edinburgh is that every summer, Edinburgh I have to do a double take every time I use a season, because I'm of course in winter right now, which is their summer, and I have to think, am I saying the right season for the right hemisphere? But yes, every summer Edinburgh has the world's largest festival of the arts. Um, the sheer number of shows in a 4-week period are mind-boggling. We're talking in the hundreds of thousands of shows. Um, the average attendance at a Fringe show is 3 people. 3. I mean, it's a small city. It's only 500,000 people, and most of them leave during the festival because they can't deal with all the tourists. So what we do is our home church there is right in the center of the city. It's on the Royal Mile, right between the palace of Holyrood House, which is the King's residence in Edinburgh, and the Edinburgh Castle, which is the barracks for the army. And it's the main tourist thoroughfare. All we do is every evening around 8 o'clock, we open the doors and we have a cafe in there, which is serving teas, coffees, cakes, and we put on the stage music that we know people will love. And we've used Metro Big Band. We use our own foot stomping gospel band. We've also used a whole host of Scottish singer-songwriters as well at different times. So, and sometimes in one festival outreach over, say, a 10-day period, we'll do multiples of all these things. So our band will take a few nights, we'll give some nights to others, and we'll organize the whole thing. And we get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people through the doors. We have never had 3 people, I'm grateful to say, attend the events. Some nights it's quieter than others, but usually you'll have a couple of hundred people through the door into the church, and they'll come in, they'll sit down. There's literature there in multiple languages, because I've always wanted to put an A-frame outside the front door and say, you're on holiday, nobody knows you're here, come to church, no one will ever know. But the church won't let me do it, but but I want to do it. So people come in, and then we do the band in sections, and so that we'll do a set, and then we'll take a 10-minute break, and the band will go and chat to people at the tables, and then we'll do another set, and we'll share the gospel as the evening goes in a very natural, relaxed, and festival type way. There's no admission fee. People just chuck money in a bucket as they leave, and that's how we pay for it. But God is good, and we've had lots of amazing conversations. We've distributed lots of Christian literature, Bibles and New Testaments and Gospels, and we're hoping that will happen again in that same way in 2024. We're not 100% sure yet, because the venue is doing a refurbishment, and we're not sure when they're going to be doing that. But either way, either be that, or there'll be some other festival-related thing worked out.
I understand. Those have been really, really interesting to me, because just like all of our mission efforts with our music teams, every location is different, every culture is different, every group that we take is different, and so oftentimes people will ask me, they'll say, "Well, tell me what a mission project's like," and I said, "Well, I'll have to choose one, and then I'll have to choose another one, because they're all different." And I will say that what we have done there at the Carruthers Christian Center in Edinburgh has been truly one of the most unique things that we've ever been a part of, and it really speaks to my heart in the way that we, even though we're I'm going to say it's a soft presentation of the gospel. God uses it. That's the deal, is that God uses it. It's not us. It's Him using it, and it's been really, really great for us to be there. Well, Colin, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's also a trip that there are no passengers on. So if you come as a spouse of a player or something, you get pressed into helping with the cafe, or handing out flyers on the street, or or manning the door. So it's one of these ones where everyone gets involved.
That's a good point, and something that I want to make sure that's clear to all of our people, and that is that we often have spouses, even families, travel with us, even though you may not be musical. I can promise you this: we will always find something for you to do, and in those events that we've done there, they've been very unique in our spouses having unique opportunities to talk to people while we're actually playing music, and it's a great opportunity. Well, Colin, I think our time is kind of wound down here. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we go?
No, I'm just getting on with preparing for our next Symphonic Praise and and in fact our festival outreaches. In fact, I'm off to Poland next week for a conference as well. So it's all go. You can pray for us in our ministry both in South Africa and in the UK. It's a long commute between the two places, but at least they're in the same time zone, so there's no jet lag. But you can
I
pray for
got
us
you.
that we continue to serve faithfully and that God blesses the ministry.
Well, God bless you, my friend, and I look forward to the next time that we have an opportunity to have some fellowship, and especially with taking one of our teams to come alongside of the Origin ministry and to be in support of how God is using you and all of the ministry things that you are developing. I can't believe when you say you do 20 to 40 events a year. I mean, that's just amazing. So God bless you, and I pray for your strength as you continue.
Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to say goodbye to all our friends, and please go visit globalmissionsproject.com. Check out our upcoming locations and places where we're going. The locations for 2024 are going to be posted very soon, and we still have 7 more mission projects this year. So come along and jump on the bandwagon and join us. And I look forward to seeing you all on our next visit and our next interview.